Lucy's entering from the wrong side of the pod studio and tripping up over myself. I definitely didn't get the Adidas memo, guys. They've got are they both Samba? Some of them are they?
We're sponsored.
Are they what are they Sambas?
These are Sambas.
These are not.
these are, I don't know what they
These are
are.
Sambas and these are not.
I feel like we're definitely settled well back into school routine now. Looking forward to the big Christmas plans coming up.
Final push of 2024.
I know.
I still feel like it's New Year. Like,
So it's January.
yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, those New Year's goals.
How are they looking? We've got one quarter of the year to go. What do you want to do?
Loads of time. For hit a money goal, a quarter's good. It's like not too big,
Yeah.
not too small.
like
And if it's
that.
really chunky and massive, break it down. Last quarter, let's go.
Yes.
Let's
yeah.
go.
No, that's so good. Let's go.
Welcome to The Vault with Financielle. This is a safe space where we talk all things life and money and no topics are off limits. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. When we were sitting down, we were just sorry guys, just talking about goals. And it made me think, so obviously we're last quarter of the year, we're coming up and we've got 31st of December in our brains. What would people listening like to do between now and then? What's our email address? Is it thevault@financielle.com?
Yes.
Send us an email now, like not if you're driving, obvs. And if you're running, Suze, don't do it when you're running, but voice note us in or into the Instagram or email us. And we might do a session sharing what people said they were going to do, because I'd love for you guys to all hear what other people are aspiring for and wanting to do. And we'll be your accountability sisters because we will check in with you a little bit. And then I'd love to be able to know by the end of December what people did. So that's a nice little task for you all. thevault@financielle.com. What would you like to achieve financially?
By the end of
Or
the year.
anything, but we're money here, so try and keep on topic.
I want a six pack.
Cannot help you there. Wrong podcast.
Okay, I've got a controversial money opinion. All debt is bad debt.
All like capital ALL.
Yeah, all.
I'm trying to think of an example where that would not be true.
I know, but I just fucking hate this. So good debt, bad debt. Like, why has it got personality? Why is it good and bad? Like, what? Like, it's sure what debt makes sense, maybe, but is it good and bad? Like, really demonizing it versus making it angelic? Like,
We could talk through the types of debt that there are and then maybe like workshop those. So buy now, pay later, I would always say is a bad debt. But at the same time, someone highlighted to me that I probably was in a very privileged position to say that. So you tell a mother that can't get to the end of the month with money left over, that on Christmas Day, she will not have any presents for her children.
nope, you're right.
She will not have new school shoes for her children come September time. She will not ever take her children anywhere out of the house because she can't afford to. So I had to like check myself, and that person kind of, when I was explaining how terrible buy now, pay later is, and it's terrible for women especially, and and they kind of flipped it on me with that. So, you know.
Which is why it's a debt. Factually, it's not good for us. Mathematically, it's not good for us. But practically, in some situations, why demonize it and make it bad? So we shouldn't call it that debt bad, even though we don't like it.
And it was probably, I would hope, invented by a person that was thinking of this woman at this particular time.
It definitely wasn't.
I know. I'm like, everyone says, people buy now, pay later for washing machines and emergency things. And we know that such a large percentage of them is just spent on beauty and clothing, unfortunately. And a large percentage of women, we've talked about this financial hangover of eating a pizza and then 3 months later still paying for said pizza. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Crazy.
So debt in that respect, even though it is nuanced, I would say is bad debt.
But then you look at something like a mortgage. And so, for those of us that want to be able to get on the property ladder at some point, when we want to do that, it is near like no one pays cash for houses unless you're uber wealthy. Like, it's just a really hard thing to do. And so you leverage your debt with an asset. I think that's important because, like, when you're doing buy now, pay later, those shoes are not an asset. Like, they may be nice, but you're not going to be able to resell them for the same value, But what we'd hope typically with something like property is it goes up in value. And so if you can take out a loan to buy that property then hopefully you pay down the loan and it also goes up in value. The downside to that particular loan, and I always tell people, have a little go at this, look at an amortization calculator. I don't want to spell it, but it's amortization. I did say with the A on the beginning, because you should really plug in the numbers and look at how much you pay in interest. Because you could have like a 300,000 pound house, but actually end up paying £500,000 in mortgage fees over the term of the mortgage if you didn't kind of change it around, if you didn't overpay it. And so some people may say mortgage is a stupid decision because you end up paying all this money, but in reality, it's kind of how we get on the property ladder. When people use it to kind of, see, this has changed. Have you seen less property bullshit on Instagram since more interest rates changed? All those people that were like 0% down, you can use other people's money to fund blah, 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 blah.
And it's like, I bought this house, then I bought the house next to it
stacked.
using this. And yeah.
Like it's some kind of game.
They've been real quiet.
There was a period, they've been real quiet. Well,
Where have you gone?
Where are you? Where's your empire gone? And because there was a point in time where some people could do that. There was a point in time pre the first crash in 2008, like when interest rates have been cheap. So people have been able to kind of
leverage
this
it all
and play
properly, yeah.
But if you haven't ever paid down that debt and you've just continued, all you've done is magnified the debt problem. So you might have like $1 million in the real estate, but you might have $1 million in debt. And where are they now? Like, it is silent. And do you know what? All these people were making more money off courses, by the way, than they were actually houses and stuff. So this is not us saying houses are a bad investment, not us saying that you can't be a property developer, but the math isn't mathing right now for lots of these things. However, good debt and bad debt, I can appreciate how a mortgage is like a sensible debt to take on because it's a secured debt with an asset. If you think about a car loan, for example, especially if it's like an asset-bearing loan, so it's secured. Sorry, it's a secured loan by the car. That car goes down in value. So if you don't pay down that loan effectively enough, you can't easily sell the car again and cover that loan. So it's an example of we just shouldn't leverage for things that go down in value or leverage for things that you can't resell, like pizza. It's not a good idea. But we definitely say debt isn't evil. It just gets in the way of your goals. So if you want to play around with it, you play. I am constantly astonished when someone comes to us in the app and says, I'm now debt free. I'm 35. I've been in debt since I was 18. And we're not talking just student loans. We're talking like consumer credit debt.
Consumer,
That's
literally
all I've ever known.
First day of 18, credit card. Yeah.
I don't think that's good.
No, you've never really learned to manage your money. You know, if you're leaning on credit, you are spending more than you bring in, and surely
never gonna get ahead.
A financially well
always
life,
on the back foot.
is spending within your means, and sometimes we lean on credit and debt to fund the gap. She's looking at me because she wants this. She wants me to summarise whether debt is good or bad, and I can't. So that's that.
And that is the end of my answer.
Take from it what you will. Okay.
Okay. Dilemma number 1. Everything I've done is about to be taken away. I was in 50k of debt a few years ago and decided the only thing I could do was take out an IVA. I'm currently paying £373 a month and things were a bit tight. So I got a job closer to home and it came with a car allowance as I'm a surveyor and need to drive to sites to inspect buildings. This has increased my take-home pay and I was just starting to feel comfortable again. But my annual review is due and I've got a sinking feeling that everything I've done to make myself feel more comfortable is about to be taken away to pay towards my debts. Of course, I understand that this is what I signed up for, but my question is, if I pay more, will the payment term be reduced? Will I get out of the IVA quicker, or will I just be expected to pay more towards the original debt?
For so many people that go through these like formal debt arrangements, there's just so much emotion connected to it. Because firstly, you've got to decide, I can't pay, like I've taken on too much, I can't pay my debts. And you go see a proper registered debt advisor, like a charity, and you can make these arrangements. So an IVA is like a voluntary arrangement where you say, I can't pay them, and use an intermediary to come to an agreement with the creditor or creditors. And so say if you were owed 50,000, you basically say, I can't pay that. It's just not going to happen. And they kind of go between the two and go, well, what can you pay? And you come up with smaller sums to say it might be that you actually end up paying 20 back or even 10 over 5, 6, 7 years. It's like put in place. But it's based on your earnings at that time. And you have these reviews. And every time there's a review, if your salary's gone up, a little bit like student loan payments, a little bit like tax, like everything, more will get paid. Typically, it will not shorten the term. The term is agreed. What will actually happen is, and to be honest, it's probably fair, the creditors get more. So they had agreed to take 10, but actually they're going to be able to get more
So what
back.
they've written off, actually they can recoup.
They can recoup a bit more. And obviously the debt advisor, because let's be clear, like debt advisors get fees for this every time as well. There's lots of hidden fees in IVAs that is just a world. I just always would say to people, make sure it's the last resort. Make sure you've tried yourself. Make sure you've shared with someone else, a friend, ask someone else to help you with your money. You can speak to creditors yourself. And sometimes if you're prepared to do that and if you can mentally handle that, you can get debts reduced or like interest frozen and stuff. I would want people to try a million different things before they get to that point. If you get to that point, you have to understand that you're kind of already getting a deal because you're already not having to pay back as much. Must be difficult. It's like when the student loan thing happens and you get a pay rise, you're like, God damn it.
Like my old that's buy now pay later kind of financial hangover style stuff where you're like, my past decisions are like,
I want to benefit from this pay rise and I can't benefit from this pay rise. But what I would say is you head down, earn more money. Don't be too frustrated at the fact that money's going to these creditors because you owe the money. Just write it off. Don't see it as something being taken from you. Be proud of yourself that you're doing well. And I guess, Holly, like once they've gone through this process, once you've paid it off,
oh my God, think of your excess. I'm always like, think of your excess when you get to the end of this. But obviously, if she's got a long term, that's mentally very draining, isn't it? Like if it's, we don't know how long her term is. We don't know. I think we read on
have 4 or 5 years left.
There could be circumstances whereby they could reduce it, but they don't typically. Everyone's situation is different.
If you have the money to pay off what you owed plus fees.
So
you'd have to find like
probably
the 50.
Not.
So it's very unlikely. You'd have to come to an agreement with them all that you would finish it early, but you'd have to, and you do have that option, by the way. If you can pull together the money at any point, you might come into money later, you might want it gone.
And that's what some people do with student loans, don't they? Where they go, do you know what? This is hanging over me and I can see the end in sight. I paid mine off early. Me and my husband both had a bit of a lump sum of savings. That's that conversation about what you should do with your savings versus debt. But we piled it all together and got rid of it because you just don't want that mental payment every single month. And like people are doing with car finance in our community, they're going, I don't want that for the next 2 years. I want to own that car and I'm going to pay for it. Or I'm going to buy myself out the agreement or whatever it might be just to stop those monthly payments because they're really arduous. They just sit with you and it's mentally draining to do your budget every month and see your money going to everyone else, which should be a really good lesson for younger people that might start to dabble in debt. Just listen to these types of stories that will put you off for life.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful to share with others and for someone to think, can this be a different way? That they're meant to be for absolutely extreme circumstances, and at least giving it a good go first would help avoid the pressure of the IVA and the stress of it. But obviously you'd still end up having to pay your money back. So no, it probably won't shorten the term, but well done on your promotion.
You don't want to
don't take away from
anyone's fire and them not be ambitious because they're like, oh, well, any money I earn is going to go to that. Like, no.
Well done.
You
Keep
do
going.
you.
Yeah. I've got a really good community to him. I'm at the start of my Financielle journey. I had been following on Instagram for a while and had previously downloaded the app, but wasn't ready to commit to changing my habits. I listened to one episode of the podcast last week and I was hooked. Thank you. I've since listened to every episode, re-downloaded the app, and I'm ready to go. It's encouraged me to do a task which I've been putting off for ages, tracking down all of my pensions so I can calculate my net worth. I need to get used to the concept of sinking funds, but I'm excited to take control of my finances.
Woo, we got a newbie through the pod as well. We've got so many new people. Oh no, she's not a newbie.
Yeah. She's an oldie newbie.
She's an oldie newbie.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Does take a while sometimes.
Don't you have to be in the right headspace though?
Yeah. It's like healthy eating, fitness journey. Like if you're not ready, like it just makes you feel a bit more miserable because you feel like you fail every week.
Yes.
When you get into it and the rhythm and you find a community of people, like we talk about our fitness journey quite a lot. We've found our people that are all like us, all live busy lives, have children, live locally. We're all in it together, and everyone is like an accountability buddy. And it honestly has dramatically changed how I look at fitness. I used to be like, oh God, whereas now I'm like,
Get to see everyone.
yeah, every morning everyone's like, who's going to the gym this morning? Who's on tomorrow? So the night before you're already like, oh, it's me. Like I'm committed. I'm going. You're like, yeah. So I get where she's coming from. Like right place, right time. But the fact that she stuck with it, and a lot of people download the app, have a little bit of a dabble, but when they listen to the pod and they hear us talk about things in context and hear other people's dilemmas, that's when things start to change.
How has she listened to us back to back though? I mean, Jesus Christ, she must be fed up of us. Your partner must be like, what the hell it was you listening to?
Or you think you know us. Like,
oh, you probably do.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're like.
Yeah. This is not a front. This is what we always laugh and say, you could just put a microphone in the office. This would be much easier. You wouldn't have to dedicate all this time to recording these episodes.
We'd have to bring Calvin with us though. Do you fancy coming to the office, Calvin?
Yeah. Documentary.
We like to know what you've got for lunch though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Have you brought lunch today?
I haven't, no.
Oh.
Wrong group of people. The judgment that Calvin's facing right now.
You're missing your lunch today because you're helping us.
You didn't meal prep for the week after budgeting your grocery shopping.
Bad.
We'll get him.
Next week, ladies and gentlemen, Calvin stars on the couch. And he's in the hot,
Do you know that hot seat we were talking about last week? You're the first one.
If you'd like to send your win, please head to the community in the app or email it to thevault@financielle.com. Okay, time for dilemma number 2. I found out my male colleagues were getting pay rises, but not me. Oh, you're angry already.
Yeah. Don't spoil the moment for her.
My career journey has been a roller coaster filled with highs and lows. I started in a temporary admin role, was made permanent, and then promoted to team lead with a pay rise. Another promotion followed, moving me to the project management office. Then I was requested by the CIO to be his executive assistant when his previous assistant left. What's CIO?
Chief Information Officer.
Okay.
C-suite.
He was old school and led by fear, but when he left, a new boss came in and everything changed for the better. This new boss was fantastic. He focused on people's strengths, created opportunities, and did the same for me, keeping me in my EA role with added people-focused responsibilities. The culture under his leadership was amazing. Everyone was equal and opinions were valued. Unfortunately, he left and the supportive environment changed drastically. I lost the person I reported to, but I continued with my people-focused role. However, one day whilst in the kitchen, I was told I would be moving to support another boss, taking me away from what I enjoyed. Then COVID hit and I was put on furlough. Upon my return, I discovered through an email that my job was being reassigned to another team. Despite some colleagues trying to support me, they eventually left the company. Soon I was juggling 2 jobs, managing a new office and being an EA, nearly reaching my breaking point. I was offered a small raise and a separate office role was created, but I felt this was only to prevent my departure. Then I was offered a promotion into a role that I knew was worth £25,000 to £35,000 more than my current salary. Although I had less experience, I was assured of a salary increase. However, my new role was announced to the company whilst I was on my honeymoon, with no contract or updated terms. I never received the promised increase or new terms and conditions. To make matters worse, I discovered that male colleagues who were promoted received pay rises, whilst I did not. My new boss was made redundant and my learning and development plan was abandoned. It felt like the company had forgotten about its people and communication was poor. Despite my efforts to keep morale high during the tough times, I'm now exhausted and disheartened. What should I do? How can I address this with them? And how do I make sure it won't happen to me again? I feel like I've lost complete trust.
Oh God, I feel like I've been on the journey with you.
Yeah.
It is a roller coaster of highs and lows. One thing I want her to take from this is not to take it personally, because it sounds like there has been some significant changes in that company. It's not typical that you would be moved from role to role so much, that so many people would leave, that your boss would change from one week to the next. Like, first of all,
Red flags.
absolutely red flags. Like, there's something going on in that company that you don't want to be a part of. It sounds like you're like a loyal person. It sounds like you've stayed there through their ups and downs. It might not necessarily be your ups and downs. It sounds like the company's gone through significant ups and downs.
It's really hard when you're responsible for people.
Yeah.
You've got to be the face, like your HR. I know she might not be HR, but she talks about people.
Yeah.
And like you're meant to help with the culture. You're meant to help with how people are feeling, but all the time you're absolutely being shafted. Like it's just so frustrating that you must have like that. I'm not surprised that took its toll. And all the time we're planning a wedding, because weddings are not easy to plan and navigate, and after COVID as well. And so when you've gone through these job changes and roles, and you're finding out things in a kitchen, and then you spot an email, and that is not pleasant.
I hate stuff like that. I think it's so unreasonable.
In the kitchen.
You should not know the future of your career effectively in passing, and you should not have any job announced whilst you're not in the business, and two, you've not signed a contract. Like that's the company taking the piss, quite frankly, and it is a red flag. The fact that your male colleagues have got paid, you've been given a little.
Briefly forgotten about that. Like
I love
that
a little.
point.
Don't you love a token pay rise when your male colleagues are getting significant pay rises? As a woman, like it happens so much,
especially in the same roles. Like obviously it's harder when they're different roles, but when it's kind of like for like, and you've got knowledge of that, so she's still there.
She's still there.
So this is your moment. Sometimes when you're quite loyal to a place, it's hard if you're loyal, right?
As a person, like
but you want to make sure
trait.
you're continually growing. I think it's been something disappointing about somewhere I've worked in the past where people leaving was seen as a massive negative, and it shouldn't be a negative. This isn't a family. This isn't loyalty. It's a journey. And I truly believe some people can stay in one organisation and continue to grow. I truly believe that, as long as you're being supported, the culture's good, you're being paid appropriately, you're developing all these different things. And sometimes there's a segue sideways, and it's not all about the pay rise and the job role, but it's a project or a development, or sometimes it is. But sometimes you're meant to leave, and you're meant to leave because you're ready for the next step, and that can't be where you are for lots of different reasons. But it was always seen as like as a negative. I think it is a negative. There's a high turnover of staff. There's a high turnover of staff, which seems like she's going through,
And it doesn't sound like there was progression for her. That she's not
like
gone
after that one pay rise, because someone spotted something in her. I want her.
Yeah,
it's been a little bit
like sideways. More responsibility.
I've been given two. I'm looking after two jobs.
It's when you get more. It's always the case when you get more responsibility from your employer. Like you are now a team leader. You are now a people manager, and then they don't give you a pay rise.
Yeah. So we're getting rid of those people.
Yeah.
But can you do what they did?
And we can't give you a pay rise because we're going through budgets. Like if it's a multi-million pound,
yeah. But we'll give him a pay rise.
You're great. You are good, Phil.
I think
sorry to all the Phils.
Sometimes the Stockholm syndrome, when you've been somewhere a while, that it's a big thing for you personally to leave. Seeing other people leave should give you confidence that if they can do it, so can I. I think this is a really good time to sit down and think, what do you enjoy doing? What do I like? What am I good at? What have people told me I'm good at?
You've probably forgotten because sounds like you've been through every role in the company.
But they're obviously desperate to keep her.
You're obviously very good.
It's that stupid loyalty thing where they know you'll stay, and they'll give you a little just keep hold, but then not help you. And she's obviously got a talent, and so somewhere else will value that talent. They really, really will. And it's great to look for a job when you're in a job. So write that down. Look at some names of businesses, like aspirational names that you hear about culture being good. You look on Glassdoor and people talk about it being a positive place. Who is in the press for like good things, not just token things? And go ask
Find out where everyone else went.
Take me with you.
The big thing about EAs, if people don't know what EA is, it's executive assistant, and it's usually an executive assistant to a really senior director. And it's not secretary, it's a different thing. It's literally the right hand. It's, can you sort this? Can you firefight this? Can you go into that meeting for me? Can you read this thing? Especially in the city, it's a really, really prestigious role.
Oh, it's so well respected. You do not mess with anyone. You do not mess with a C-suite EA.
But the other thing is, it's all to do with networks. And so I'm sure you are so amazing at this role. A good one's hard to come by. And so I would reach out to the network, put open to work on your LinkedIn.
There's a really
people
good
don't
network
see.
in Manchester of executive assistants, isn't there? Like they do
It's
events
PAs
and
and
stuff.
executive assistants, so you need that. But ask around them, like who is looking for a really good EA, but in a brand that I like, and go after it. Go and this is the big stat that we see is apparently that you can get as much as a 30% pay rise, or 30% more. Sorry, it's not 30% pay rise, but you can get 30% more going somewhere else than staying with the same business. And that's very, very common if in the current business you're in, there isn't like a progression opportunity and you just, if you're staying in the same role, it's really hard to get a pay rise because budgets are there for a reason. So take this as your opportunity to go look somewhere else.
Let us know.
Free.
Yeah. I need to know the update.
Have you seen the girl on TikTok who, do you know Ole Hendrickson?
No.
The skincare guy.
Oh yeah.
And he, like his brand's massive, but I think he lives in New York, but he's like the happiest man ever. Apparently, and this girl, his like PA, Oreo, I'm not sure.
I don't know, but I want to follow her now.
She's like, come with me for a day as a PA to the happiest man alive. And then I'm just like playing with like shoes and everything. Like, it's literally Devil Wears Prada, but fun.
Oh,
like,
but wouldn't you want to, like, that is not her every day right now.
No, but it could be.
Our listener, like you want her to go in and enjoy what she's going into. And again, I think sometimes we feel safe in the same space. The place that gave us a chance, the place that gave us those early promotions. Women are rubbish at loyalty, like really are. Like it's just business. It's not personal. Sometimes you can leave a place and still be friendly. And sometimes you don't think that because you've built up your network internally, you feel like there's not somewhere else. There's somewhere else. I promise you.
And people are so loyal until you get made redundant or something and you realise that they just screw you over anyway. So just crack on.
Well, you're a number, like because business is also business. So the business can, and again, I think a really interesting point that you made earlier, Holly, and I want to call it out is sometimes as well, bad culture, good culture, it's not intentional. You fall through the cracks. And if you're going through that at work where like something was promised and it didn't happen, something where you were not made to feel like appreciated, having been in a boardroom and been on the other side of it, you genuinely are appreciated, but it's a factual numbers game. And sometimes people slip through the nets because it's just a big problem.
It's not
or a big
perfect.
issue.
If it's a big machine,
oh my God,
it's
not
so
perfect.
easy to get lost in the, I was supposed to give her a pay rise. Oh, but your manager left. Right now we need to re-embed this new manager in and they need to...
She found herself on an email.
Literally,
no
so
one intentionally does that.
No.
But it's not great practice.
And there's too many things in that dilemma. That's in one company.
Flag.
Some people would go through that in their whole career. That's in one company. And for me, that's a massive red flag and I would walk out the door.
So polish up the CV, get into those PA networks and EA networks and look at the brands that you aspire to get closer to and network and just put your feels out. Go to a recruiter. There are really specialist recruiters in your thing. Go for coffee. Go and see what you could do. And I think you'll get more confident.
Exciting.
And congratulations on the wedding. I thought they're married, aren't they?
Well, they went on honeymoon. I hope they got married.
Yeah. We had a great holiday.
That's all for this episode. The Vault is now closed. P.S. We would love if you would subscribe, follow, and share this podcast so we can help grow our amazing community. Just a quick disclaimer, The Vault is just a chat around life and money topics. We are not giving financial advice.